flick over, start streaming. Your event is starting.
Great.
Yeah, and it's liver than the delayed live of the stream from the keynote.
Nice. Yes.
Hey everyone, it's Daryl as a service and Daniel Glenn, and we're going to get the show started. Daniel's in a different place, but let's roll. Well, hey, Daniel, you are you're somewhere different. Where are you right now?
I am in sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. I am at the site of SharePoint Conference 2019. Yay.
All right. Do you want to walk us over to the window and just show us the
Oh,
views
yeah,
in
sure.
your room? Yeah.
Sure. So you can see a little bit of the skyline here. You know, all the wonderful casinos and properties and such. So, yep. Some buildings that are not fun. Oh, you can see the Statue of Liberty over there, maybe.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So I am at the MGM, and I found a quiet place to, as you could probably tell or imagine, I guess. The conference is buzzing, and there's people talking and all over the place, and so I found a nice quiet spot for our show. But
yeah,
having a great time here.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And look, they haven't made it easy for us today, have they, sir? Because we have about 30 message center messages, and then we've got all this stuff that is happening at SharePoint Conference, which is definitely interesting to talk about too.
Right. It is, yes, it's not easy. And so I think, maybe this show we're going to have to do the, take an alternate route. We're not going to be able to cover everything. We're going to have to hit the highlights and really talk about some of the big impactful statements, announcements, as well as some things that are not really announcements. It's more like we're actually going to do it. We said we were looking at doing it, and we're actually going to do it. So, but anyway, How are you, Daryl?
Oh, good. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot to get through. So we'll. I've just been catching up with the delayed coverage from the live stream and taking a few snippets to say what interests me. So we can refer to that as we go and as we skip our way through some of these announcements. Thank you for Suzanne Hunt and Phil Worrell joining us, and those of you who don't chat and you just watch later. All right.
Yep.
So what we've got, like I said, there's a ton here. So we are going to skip through some and just read it and go, yep, great, self-explanatory, or we'll circle around and have a look at it another time.
Okay.
But a lot to get through. Updated native connectors for third-party data for archive and preview. Haven't read a lot about it. Data governance. Skip this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It is important for some organizations, but for us today, it's not making the cut.
Oh, look, all of it's important. You should be reading each and every one of these. You should have someone in your team or two people in your team that are at least looking at these and thinking about how things affect you. But yes, we are going to skip over a few things as we go today. The updated feature Office app launcher in Yammer. Just not too much to say about this, just to say that the icon has upgraded, and when you go into the app launcher, you will see that as well. I might say and draw a comparison here. Where's the full app launcher from within Microsoft Teams?
Yes, and I think
what I'm talking about.
Consistency is one of those things we talk about often. But bringing that experience into Yammer is great.
Yep.
Could it be improved? Like you were just mentioning, maybe. But this is good, right?
Yep.
To bring it into is something we've complained about a lot. Is we want those menus to be the same. So
yep, absolutely.
Yep.
General availability on that. Feature a new setting to prevent users from syncing libraries and folders shared from other organizations. I found this one interesting.
It is
interesting.
Practical
use for this?
Yeah, this definitely practical use. If you're you have organizations that are guests into other organizations, and you don't want syncing down content. I think that is a lot. I could understand financial organizations, and others. I mean, it's not just that. So this could definitely play in. So it actually is interesting. It is a registry key in Windows to prevent this, which is interesting. To be able to roll that out.
Can I just clarify something there too? As you were explaining it, it sounded like the meaning was, I am in control of my environment and I have guests that join our tenants, but I want to control whether or not they can synchronize via OneDrive my document library that they're a guest of. But this is actually switching it around, isn't it? And saying,
that's right.
You're in my organization, and I don't want you to be able to go off to other tenants as a guest and synchronize down their content.
Right, exactly. Trying to, I think, differentiate between the organization you're a member of and an organization that you're a guest in, and you go there to get content and to view it, but don't sync it down to my machine to muddy the water kind of thing. Yeah.
There's a few things like changes to the Trust Center. There's an update here to Find Time that it's now supporting a wider range of languages, which is good.
Yeah,
that
is good.
I know I speak English, but I still appreciate when...
Sure?
I know sometimes. New Zealand, actually, it's a whole other language. And apparently to translation services and transcription. So whenever there is that effort, and I know there's a massive effort behind it to try and regionalize, always appreciated.
Yep.
We've seen a wave of these prevent fix type announcements. Where there's something that has been a bit funky in the service. This one in particular, if you're using an older build of the Yammer desktop app, and it's actually built on the same browser technology as Teams. The goal here is that it allows you to have Yammer as an app on your desktop, and you get your desktop alerts, and you can respond to it that way. Another thing about that is that it's making sure that if this is a service important to your organization, it is going to start up in the background and always be running. If you're using an older build of that, make sure you upgrade it, because Yammer's stretching out ahead and you want to make sure that you can still connect to it. Not much more to say about that.
Yes.
Updated feature for Teams calling and meeting controls.
Not a whole lot of information in this one. I like the screen grab. Thank you. I like that. I think it's the retooling of the control bar. That's what I call it. Is that what the name of it is? Is the control bar?
It is, yeah. Look, I must say I joined an MVP feedback call about this, as we were saying, like, what would they like, some considerations of thinking about changing this toolbar up, so that in a meeting, you're not hunting through various layers to find the core controls that you want. I know that we're probably squinting at the screen here, and I'm not really... zooming in on it, but we still have turn our video on and off, our mute on and off, share stuff. The ellipsis button is where we'll always find additional things. But rather than turning on the chat and add participants panel or participants pane, it's all down there on the same bar.
Right. It's not. It was kind of like two different sets of controls. One is, so bring that all down in one. So it's good.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Going on to announcement post type within Teams. This is good. Now, have you read up a little about this?
I have a little bit, and so being able to differentiate between having a post and an announcement, I think is key. Is a big deal when you're thinking through how to use Teams, and it's some content is more equal than others. It is that sometimes you do need to say, hey, this is kind of a big deal, pay attention to this. It's not just a regular conversation piece. So So that's what way I take from it, and what I have seen previously is that. And how do you see it being used?
Well, we there's a couple of ways you can create conversations, and a lot of people will jump into that start conversation box and just type, and it's just text. Some of us who want it to stand out a bit more use that formatting, and we add in a subject so that it stands out, and as we scan down our feed, we can quickly see what's this all about. But this is much like the announcement message type within Yammer, that you want to broadcast this in a different way to everyone in the team, and you want it to stand out in a different way. Now, this goes a bit further with its formatting options, in that you can choose from some predefined backgrounds, or you'll be able to upload your own picture to make this really stand out. We don't have a lot more than this to see and share in terms of what it looks like, but that looks pretty cool.
It's rolling out early June. June, so it's coming in the next couple of weeks.
A few weeks away, so we'll be able to see kicking off.
So that'll be interesting.
Icon type over here. Remember, we see our @mentions for @mention the team, @mention me. We've also got a I guess an announcement type icon to see and call it out. But we'll find out more as we go.
Yep, we will.
Another prevent, fix, trial apps and services setting. I really didn't have a look at this one very closely.
Yeah, the cleaning up the ability to, if you don't want to allow users to inadvertently in your tenant to claim a commercial cloud trial, and so you don't want people claiming those and this harkens back to I think is a big issue with like Power Apps trials, and because Power Apps and Flow, those in particular have this elevated license type, and they're real keen on giving you a trial, so you can use those connectors and use the data gateway and start using it, but then it's okay. What do I do now that my trial's over, and that confusion? But anyway, I actually don't like that experience with Power Apps and Flow, and so anything we can prevent users from going out and claiming licenses or whatever, especially on trials, I think we should prevent it as much as possible. So this is good.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I wonder if this does also apply to the often promoted Teams 1-year trial for business users that are not licensed. Now, there are very few licenses that don't come with Teams. Right. If you have a license and you've applied it to your users and you've unticked the box to say no, we're not ready for Teams yet, then that's certainly within your control. But if you're in a tenant of sorts where you maybe you're a kiosk license of sorts, or I forget what they call it. I really don't see where this might apply, but it's wondering to see whether that applies to the Teams effect. Hey DG, we've lost your video. That's all right. Are you switching things around?
Sorry. You should see me again, right?
Yep, you're back. No problem.
Sorry, I was actually turning my phone. I'm doing this from my phone. So I was turning it on so I don't get notifications and ding.
Good point. Good point.
Sorry about that.
SharePoint Admin Center improvements.
Yeah, this was part of the announcement this morning at the virtual conference as part of SBC, that really bringing parity between the SharePoint Admin Center of the modern, the current version, the new version, with what is available in Classic. And so making all the Classic features available in the Admin Center, which is it there? I don't know. I haven't done a feature comparison, but last time I did do a feature comparison, it wasn't. So that'll be interesting to see if we can do everything the exact same way, or if we have to make concessions. But the biggest part of this, Daryl, I like, is the bulk actions. To be able to select multiple sites and then change, edit those properties of those sites. And this kind of harkens back to us doing multiple edits in a SharePoint list, right? So, the new Admin Center it's a SharePoint list of really. It's a listing of all these SharePoint sites, and you being able to select those and make edits, I think is fantastic. So we don't have to go one by one. And the biggest thing is hub site. If you've created a site and you have 20 sites, it would be great to just associate those 20 sites to that hub site without having to go to each individual one. And now you can. Yeah,
that's good. So bulk edit's definitely going to make an admin's job easier. Seeing some parity there with the classic features. And there was one other one that I picked up on during the keynote. I'm still working my way through that video. Around the administration of sharing expiration for default for guest users. You've invited an external user, you're sharing a whole site with them, and there is a default you can now set to say I want it to expire their access within 30 days.
And it's fantastic so that and I think IT organizations have been doing this for a while for like internal stuff, right? If you're a guest I'm a consultant, and so I often am a guest into a network, and so they manage your access and have to renew it, just for compliance and making sure you don't have access when you don't need it. Same thing here, being able to have an expiration and saying, okay, we can renew it, but we need to know what's going on and manage that. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, so that's allowing you to leverage that ability to bring in guest users and not have to provide them with a full license. Although if you want that full control and saying we're not going to allow guests, here's a full license and we've got full control of turning it on and off. That's always a better, more secure way to do it. But this certainly helps you.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it helps you sweep up by default anything that you may have forgotten. That even after 30 days, if you've set that as a default, the access is gone.
Yeah, and in conjunction with this, being able to see your guest access, who has access from a guest perspective, and then turn it off wholesale, and it's not going to each site and saying, has this site been shared with this person or whatever, but being able to wholesale turn off access, I think, is a fantastic thing too.
Yeah,
that was talked about today.
Now there was an update here to calendar colors and bolding calendar events within Outlook on the web, and we are seeing some changes around there. They've started to get this pale sort of yellow with formatting for certain scenarios, particularly with external. When you are emailing someone and they're not within your company, you get those nice little warnings. So these kinds of or levels of formatting are always welcome to help us, as long as there's not too much and we don't end up with a Technicolor looking Outlook calendar. And well, actually we do, don't we? With
Well, and I think just being able to give you a little bit of clarity into your calendar, especially for those of us that have a calendar that's full of items. And I like to, you can use color coding and all that, but in Outlook desktop, so that you can understand what is, there's the things that I need to prep for or the things I'm just attending, right? They're the meetings where we're coming together to do something, and then there's the meetings where I have to lead the meeting, so I have to prep for it, or there's meetings that I need to do homework before I go to, so you kind of have to manage your days like that. At least I do. So
I've skipped over one or two things there, but this one's I think based on the date there. Is it the 20th there now? No, it's the 21st there for you. So this was this week. Team Channel Files tab now has that look and new look and many fields. So this is the SharePoint File tab or SharePoint look and feel.
Yeah, so this is the files, right? That we know that files in Teams is stored in SharePoint, but this is the really talking about bringing the juice, the power from SharePoint into Teams, and really bringing that experience that we saw in the keynote in the virtual summit, with the bringing formatting, list formatting, metadata, in a SharePoint list, bringing that all in to Teams, and not, in Teams we just get file name and modified and all that, but seeing all of the that rich experience within. Yeah, you're showing right there.
Yeah, let me
SharePoint list right here in Teams. I'm going to go ahead and expand that. You saw me do it. Full screen view of your SharePoint list inside of Teams. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Yes, give it some love. You can do it. Thank you.
That's what she
Sorry,
said.
I forgot to tell you the audio plays over the top of that as well, and I thought it was quite funny when I snapshotted that, because Caruana is trying to get everyone excited about this. We can full screen and focus on the SharePoint list, and Teams tucks off to the side nicely. And I'm like,
well,
hang on, the full screen thing's been there for a while.
No, a lot of this, there's a lot of mix of things going on, and I'll just briefly touch about this, but to touch on this, there's a lot of things that have been announced, but here they're being shown in a refined manner. So that's one layer. There's also another layer of when demos are being presented, it's like trying to, you're taking this information in, and you're like, how do I apply this to my work? And so I think it's very difficult with those, and there's probably other factors to, for speakers that are doing these keynotes of announcing these things of, okay, do I pause to allow applause? Do I encourage them? Do I, how do I, so some speakers I noticed, I think, had built in maybe some pause time for applause, but didn't get any. But it's not because the thing wasn't cool. It was just people were like, oh, that's interesting. How would I use that? And by the time they get through the process of how I would use it, they've already moved on. And so, just because you don't get applause doesn't mean it's not exciting.
No, look, I'd say that about keynotes these days, especially when it's a combined big event like this. You can see 5 different features within 30 seconds, and they're all being cleverly introduced by wording, by presenting it in such a way that, I'm connecting this with this, and all of a sudden you've seen 5 things, and you're like, whoa, what have I just seen?
Exactly. That is, it's like, what tech did I just see, and have I seen that before, and how does that, how would that, when is it coming? And I mean, there's just so many layers that I think that, anyway, I felt sorry for some of them because they were like, oh, I thought I'd get some applause. But, and then others were just like, yeah, you can clap for that or whatever. And that's fine. It's just, I think it's, I think too many people are trying to be like a certain fruit company that has these keynotes. And then I feel like they hop their attendees up on sugar and just say, clap at anything or something. Sugar. I don't know. Because it's Apple, like, right? Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But they do these keynotes, and it's like, look at this new phone. It's yes. It's like, well, you don't even know anything about it, but you're screaming about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, bringing it back to the Files tab and within Teams, and what Caruana showed there, which was that full list experience within Teams. The goal here is that you are able to work with SharePoint the way that you regularly would if you went through your full SharePoint site. You can see all the conditional formatting on your lists and libraries. And look, just that full screen thing just means that, and I think people should use that more often with their different apps and things within Teams to give themselves some focus on what's going on.
Yeah, I still have a big pain point with Teams myself with this whole experience of multitasking because, when you're looking at a file, I can't view my conversations. I can view the conversations about the file, but I can't view conversations in Teams. And so I think there's still a lot of work to be done there within the tool. But the thing is, I think that they're working on a lot of stuff too. So it's not like it's they're not going to improve on it. But I think that full screen experience is great when you're working on lists that have these wonderful features of everything. But it's how do we do that along with having conversations about that page, because now it's file. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how they roll with that.
Finishing off this announcement, expecting to see it within June, gradually rolling out to customers in June.
Yep.
So that's when we'll start to see the files experience of a document library in Teams.
Yep.
Mail Flow Insights Phase 2.
Phase 2?
Yeah, there was a Phase 1.
Yes.
Now this looks like it's more reporting, adding multiple new reports and tools for Mailflow dashboard and security and compliance center. Sounds like a deeper topic. The message center doesn't say a lot. Do go through to your additional information and check that out. There we go. Oh, it's even got a full page on it saying V2.
It does. It has and it has information on those reports, and so definitely check those out and go in and look at those different reports of the Mailflow and there's non-delivery, all that kind of stuff. But check out those Mailflow reports.
And per team analytics and cross team analytics. New to the team, rolling out soon. How does it impact me? Found and managed teams below. A list of joined teams will allow users to see broad level of data for all of the teams they are a member and owner of. I've heard this request when people say, well, look, I can see this list of teams and list of groups, but what do I actually belong to?
Yeah, that, and I think also that activity, because you get a little bit of the ones that you can see, they're bolded when someone said something in the channel, or tagged you or put some new stuff in there, so you get those indicators. But overall, do I need to check all of these, or is it that some of them are just things I need to check every week or something? So giving an activity and seeing which ones are popular, and but then also more details in here. Are there guests? I think that's one of the biggest things that organizations are having to deal with when it comes to guests and teams, is making sure that you're saying who's in the team and what you can say, because you don't want to. And I'm not saying everybody does, but I often lose track of where I'm at within teams. What team am I in? What channel am I in? And so making sure that you can keep track. And this is just a great place to go and look and see all of this information, including what kind of guest.
That's the personal view. The other huge benefit here is for team owners. Right. Yep. When you're a team owner, really that expectation for you as the owner is it's your team, and you're encouraging the activities. You're something of a champion of your own team. Otherwise, it's just too hard to scale. We can't have community members in every single team to try and get things going. But this information arms the team owner to see how active are we, who's actually involved in terms of this whole audience, and are we actually using this team more effectively? Do I need to change the way that I introduce things? And that's probably where things like the new announcement post type become quite useful. It's going to draw more people in. It's going to be a bit easier to find, and hopefully get some more responses to that sort of thread. In terms of how it's been used. But always good to arm our team owners with more analytics around how things are being used. How can they get benefit out of that? Retention for Teams hybrid users.
This is those the hybrid, the on-prem users. What's that?
Teams on-prem?
So this is the hybrid with their mailbox, right? Because you can have mailbox on-prem.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and using because it says shadow mailbox in the cloud, but that's what this is all about. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's making sure that you can still benefit from that if your organization is straddled across now. New feature, retention for Teams hybrid. Of course, because retention is making use of an Exchange feature, you want to be storing that information. If you're wanting to store it in your on-prem Exchange, then that's how I understand it to me.
Yep.
All right. Yep. That is the last one on the list, and we do have a bit of time still to talk about some of the other observations and announcements at SharePoint Conference. You were in the keynote. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Well, I think one thing that we haven't seen get a lot of love, at least I haven't seen, is Yammer getting a lot of love from the new UI experience, the question and answer feature in Yammer, which is, that feature that we used to have in this thing called communities, I think it was, in SharePoint, to where you could basically kind of gamify, have question and answers and mark best answer, that kind of thing. The scheduling for events in Yammer, the e-discovery in Yammer, all of those kind of things, I think, is some really cool stuff, that Yammer is getting some love from. So that was a big deal. I think let me see, what else? I had something else.
I'm just digging up the SharePoint blogs in the background too. And look, the blog space within, I'll just switch it over so everyone can see what we're seeing. The blog space within tech community is so damn busy that it was about 3 hours before. Well, the blogs were released a little before the keynote. Right. And then by the time I got around to seeing them, they're there for about 10 minutes. And then there was a whole lot of Azure stuff there as well. So you have to go searching for it.
It does. And frankly, I was sitting in the keynote like right before it started, and I was sending out some tweets of some of the blog posts. And it's a bit frustrating for me because I actually get notifications for all blog posts for certain blogs that I follow. I use Flow to notify me on that because I want to see them. But every time they go in and edit the blog, it sends me an email. So it kind of filled up. Anyway. But there were several, there was at least one that I sent out that was released or had been updated, and the link didn't work. And I'm like, so I don't know if they just posted it and then deleted it and reposted it or something. So that was kind of frustrating. But you're right. There was a bunch of blog posts that came out right before the keynote.
Look, they start here. There's some business stories here about optimizing business solutions and using Marks and Spencer, intelligent intranet announcements, turbocharging 365 cloud usage. This is one that I wanted to open up and have a closer look at, was the new home sites. That certainly drew a lot of reaction.
That was a big announcement to be able to, we talk about how do we have, we have this home site for SharePoint that is just a bunch of frequent sites and all this kind of stuff. And how do we personalize that? How do we make it an experience, make it an intranet kind of experience? So having this place, this home site place, is, I think, a big development that we've been looking at it for a few months, seeing it before, but I think a lot of organizations are going to love this. It's kind of an out-of-the-box entry into an intranet.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that you can get from, some of those other intranet partners, but, this is kind of the entry level that gives you all of the communication site functionality, but in a central place that everyone can easily get to and not have to know the URL and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're wanting to build it out of the box, there is a number of things that are gorgeous. I mean, look at this. The new sort of hero web part with the slider and the text is a little different stylized. I've heard too the chatter around it that it is more personalized too, and with the new audience targeting, that's certainly coming through in this new home page as well. That it's a more personalized page. As I come to it, I see organizational news, and then I'll also see content that's relevant to what I have access to.
Right. That's right.
So a lot of good things there, but further down the page, there's some of this also spills over to your mobile experience.
That's right.
Because it's all optimized there. What else was there down here? stylizing these sections too, so that we've had that for a little while. The more visually appealing in terms of bringing it through dark ways. But what they're showing here is highlighting organizational news over the top of other news that might have been created by people within business units for their team sites. Right. Recommended viewing.
What's that?
Sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one thing that of course, got a lot of applause was renaming or re-URLing a SharePoint site. It got a lot of applause because, I mean, it's one of those things that we've all been wanting for a while. Someone said on Twitter, what if they had said something about tenant rename? Just think how big the standing ovation would have been. But, this is a big deal. I think the big bucket that I have been looking for and we've had promises on is search. Bringing the search experience to, and one thing that was highlighted was the search experience for people, and having that be across everywhere. It be the same experience, so you can find people, find who they, connect who they are and who, where they fall, and information about them. And then what was announced, it was only said in one sentence during the keynote, but in the blog post it was emphasized a little bit more, is that they are still intending on bringing it to Windows as well, so that you're searching your whole environment, not just SharePoint, not just your files and all that, and not just in Office, not in OneDrive, but also in Windows. So bringing that search experience to be the same everywhere. I think that'll be awesome.
Yep, and there was talk too of standardizing that or bringing it into the search experience within Teams too. I know Teams is already quite powerful in its own search, finding content within Teams and being able to trigger apps and chats and / this and that, like Steve Collier's / What's New channel. Check that out. Channel playlist. But bringing that Microsoft search into everywhere that you work. They saw demos of it in PowerPoint, and I think that's the comment there, is it trying to bring that standard feel through. And it is important to bring it into the desktop because much as we are power users and we are used to and familiar with going into a web browser and just using it, there are those who will hit start and that's how they'll begin their search. It's got to be a local experience for them.
Yes.
So there was a bunch of stream announcements as well around more mobile capability, that you can upload a video directly to stream from your mobile. And that's sort of hinting towards other things that are coming, because they said that a little further down the track they'll allow you to record a video directly from the Stream app. And what I'd suggest there is that, look, your mobile phone is a lot more functional in terms of your camera capabilities. You're probably better to just stick with that and just upload your video that way. But question mark, what does that mean if they're looking to enable a camera in the Stream app? What's next? Let's just leave it there. But good experience in that sense.
Yep, I agree. I think Stream is getting a lot of love, rightfully so, because if you look at the statistics and you look at what's going on, video is where it's at. We do this show; it's on video. We do other things on video. We don't write. I don't write a lot of blog posts anymore. Because of that reason.
I've noticed, man. Where are all the wrap-ups for these episodes? Come on.
I know, and actually someone, Mark Anderson was like, hey, I'd like to, I want a central place to where I can go and find all the updates. And I'm like, well, we do a show. And he's like, well, do you have a write-up of everything you talk about? Because I don't watch video. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because that's really where it's going, is video. I think that we see that, and so seeing Stream get a lot of love is a good thing.
Now we did see a few things on stage with Microsoft Teams, but there aren't any blog posts announcing anything new that have as appeared within SharePoint. It's all really from the SharePoint face and out, that here's SharePoint, here's what's changed, and you're going to start seeing that within Teams. I'll just lastly sort of check the, there it is, Yammer blog. New investments there in Yammer. So we know about the communications post, or rather the conversations web part that's being built out. I found this interesting, the live events that you can create. You've got a few choices there. You can do it from within Teams, and it becomes just this meeting experience that you're extending to everyone. But there's that fuller, more capable way of creating a live event using a third-party app, which we're doing right now. And up until now, you've had to, if you wanted to do that for a Yammer-driven event, you had to also fire up that meeting within Teams and control at least the initial parts of kicking off that live meeting. And now announcement there is that you can do the whole process from the Yammer page. But yeah, that's there we go. Style our content as well. So the Q&A capability of creating that different post type, like we heard there with the Teams one. They've got the announcement one. Well, Yammer's adding the Q&A one, which is going to be important even for those live events. When you put out a question to your audience, or rather to your community, you want to be able to say, this is the important, or this is the one that really hit the mark, and make that easier for people to find. Yeah, not too much more to add there. I think there is a lot that we, again, have to digest. Like you said, those in the audience that was seen 50 things. And
exactly. And I mean, there's other factors we need to keep in mind, and we can wrap up here in a minute. But one is that not all of the announcements were made in the keynote. There are other sessions going on even now that are making announcements and doing more detailed announcements. The other factor is, I think, what you can kind of see in what's going on is announcements and delivery. Those are two different things.
Yes.
And you're seeing announcements now, and I think what you'll see toward Ignite timeframe is delivery.
Right.
I mean, you could kind of see that, and that's what happened last year. Same thing. We had SharePoint Conference announcements being made, and then kind of showing previews, or not previews as in just slides, but like closed previews and open previews at Ignite. Now, I say that there's also announcements that were made today that are in preview already. So it's not exactly like that. So there's a lot of things that are in preview now, but so just know that some of the stuff that was talked about, you're going to have some time. Some of the bigger things you're going to have some time to digest. But there's other things that are rolling out now. So
it
definitely
really gets
is
to the heart of your session, doesn't it? Like
it does.
And that constant catch up of how do we keep up with change. That there are things that are announced in the message center, and we know Dean Gross, this is one of his common comments. Well, when is it arriving? And it's not always accurate to his tenants. That's true.
Right.
So there is that constant juggle, and it'd be interesting to hear. I know that this is not like Ignite, where sessions are all recorded and pushed up to YouTube, but I'm sure we'll be able to catch up with some of that content that you're going to deliver.
Yeah, and so that's anybody who's here at SharePoint Conference. That's Thursday at 2 p.m. I will be delivering the Keeping Up with Change in Office 365. I think that is, you're right, it is difficult, and it's a job in itself. I'm not saying it's a full-time job, but it is a task that can't be just added on to somebody without regard to it taking up time. It does, and it can be difficult. And so my session will be talking about how to manage that. How do you digest? How do you learn the information? How do you learn? How do you get the information? How do you learn about it? And then how do you disseminate it to the people within your organization appropriately? You know, how do you train users? How do you give the enablers and power users the tools to be able to use the new stuff? So that's what the session's about. But it really is an ongoing process. It is not it's not just something that you can, a task that you can check off and be done with it. It's not a project. It is an ongoing experience. So
definitely. Well, good luck with that session too, buddy.
Thanks.
And hope that the rest of the conference is informative and productive. I'm sure that you'll be posting a few things socially about that.
Yeah.
Thank you for Dean Gross. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah.
Lurking there
Thanks
in the
everybody
background
for
there,
joining
Dean.
us.
You've been watching. Cool.
Yeah.
How many announcements from Ignites are still pending? Thanks all for joining on in there. And thank you, Daniel, for connecting with us live from the spot to
thanks for
share that with us.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to join up live from Vegas.
Yeah, awesome. Next week back to the usual time. We hope. But thanks for tuning in, and for those who are watching it afterwards too, you know where to find us. And if you want to keep up with our different events that we are, setting up and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so that you'll get that notification in a few places, in email and within YouTube.
That's right.
Thanks again for tuning in. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.